Hello everyone, I'm Bra Mithra. Welcome back. The second part of the long Season 1 journey. Before we get back to the story, right where we left off, Lightning was just finally introduced to the settlement. Now, I talked a lot about D&D and stuff like that. The main takeaway that I was trying to convey in that message is, with D&D, you're in a social contract, right? The players are sitting down, the DM's sitting down, the DM's going to run the game, and you're going to collectively tell a story when you play D&D. And that story mainly centers around the characters and how they perceive their own story advancing, right? You're asking your players to invest in creating a backstory, role-playing, playing a class, picking a race, investing into the story that's being told, engaging with NPCs, engaging with the monsters, but they're all, for the most part, players are never going to really agree or want to be subjected to random story events, right? Most of the time, the DM's guides and stuff, old D&D used to give you randomly generated encounters, randomly generated rooms, randomly generated dungeons, randomly generated NPCs. For the most part, now, and I would agree with this, you don't really want that to be the case. You would rather the DM have a complete narrative, you play through that, and then everybody reaches their natural endpoint, right? The DM is going to want the story to feel good for the players, and the players are going to want their story to be completed as far as they can with their character. And with all these books and all these supplements and all these things, everyone's going to invest so much time into creating a character. They're going to create a class that they find perfect for their play style. And as they level up, that's what they're going to expect to do. Level up, get their next gear, get their next feat, get their next ability score improvement, get their new spells, reach a new spell tier. The players are going to want to stay alive as long as possible, and the DM feels that they should help them do that. And my point was this organic narrative story at which would come through via Kingdom Death, where everything is random by chance and you could just die all the time at any moment for seemingly no reason, right? Because not everything is going to be explained in Kingdom Death. It's up to the player to, after they experience something, they should think about it, engage with it, look up somewhere else, like a shop lore blurb, stuff like that. Kingdom Death's lore is not laid out in front of you like a DM kind of would. Most DMs also are pretty cryptic with their storytelling and stuff, but for the most part, DMs run modules, they run Adventures League. It's going to be pretty safe, and it's going to be pretty scripted. Kingdom Death is none of those things. It's neither safe nor scripted. And that was my point with that intro, was you're not going to get that, right? A player's not going to want to do it, and I don't think I would want to do it if I was a player at a table. It would feel chaotic. It would feel messy. But sometimes you should just let a little chaos into your game. Let a little bit of randomness seep into your world. Right? It's just the little chaos in. Let a little chaos into your world. And it can really pay off, but sometimes it really doesn't. So that we'll continue our narrative, our Season 1 narrative, where we left off, Lantern Year 8 or something like that. But for the most part, I just want to say that the stuff that we are now going to talk about, one, a little graphic. Not imagery. I'm not going to show Kingdom Death imagery. Imagery is I'm obviously going to filter that out. It's going to be it's going to be things that are hard to deal with, right? We're going to talk about disorders, survivor perspective on the world, a lot of things that are it's not for the, it's not normally things you would talk about in D&D either. Really, it's a really grim, dark world. So that's one reason why. The other reason why is there's going to be a couple of these stories, a couple of the survivors now that we've talked to. These random events really affect them. Great narrative, but if you were a player, some rough stuff would happen to you. And I'm not talking like, I'm not talking death, but that does happen. But I'm talking like you are aggressively taking control of a player's game, taking control of the way they're playing their character. That's what some of these random events can do, and that's what would happen if you DM'd like this. Now, it's some people don't like that when it happens, even in Kingdom Death, that you lose complete agency over your character. So we're going to get into some of those things. So, spoilers now, just in general of Kingdom Death, we're going to talk about a lot of lore. A lot of lore is, again, like I said, it's hard to piece together, and I might not be 100% correct on it because it's not 100% given. And a lot of it is in flux. There's some stuff that happened in Kingdom Death 1.0 that is going to flux a little bit from 1.5, fluxes a little bit more to, obviously, Gambler's Chest. It's not cohesive all the way through, so when you play the original game, the Gambler's Chest might have different events. The lore is going to change. The lore is already changing, that we can already tell. So I'm going to try to adjust for all those things. But spoilers for everything now. This is heavy spoilers for Season 1, heavy spoilers for Season 2, heavy spoilers for Kingdom Death. So, with that, let's go where we left off. Lightning was just finally introduced. Lightning is the new leader of our settlement, or she's self-proclaimed, the agency of which survivors feel about, or the agency she protrudes onto other survivors, the way her attitude towards life, her general attitude in general to the world of Kingdom Death, how she, right when she arrived in the basket in the River of Blood and was returned, there was, as she grew up in the settlement, again, because Lantern Years, between a hunt, between a settlement, it's, people grow up completely. So Lightning, between the last hunt and this next one that they're about to go on, Lightning has now grown enough to hunt. She's going to go out and hunt right away. In this time, that is when her views of, the world is dark, the world is monstrous, and survivors themselves should live in that. You should accept the darkness. That was the principle of life that we took on when Lightning joined, right? That's the new model, or the new motto of the settlement going forward, right? All survivors agree with her stance. She's correct. If you want to survive in this world, even like when Aurora and Miles went out to find her, again, her story, she was abandoned. She's just found in River of Blood. But whoever just sent her down, no one knows where she came from. She doesn't know where she came from. She has no memory of it. Why would she? She was just an infant, a newborn. So, and just left to the world to die for who knows why, or where she came from. Or if it was another settlement, who even knows? So, the survivors agree. Well, the settlement agrees, right? Yeah, if we're going to thrive and we're going to survive in this world, we should be a little monstrous. We should be a little bit more accepting, and embolden ourselves to the world around us. So, with this, naturally, Lightning thirsts for some sort of power. Right? She figures herself as, you can't be weak, right? It's not so much survival of the fittest, again, because this settlement is naturally nourishing, or nurturing towards infants. We do have protect the young. Life is precious. That's the settlement stance. But you can still be strong in that world. So she naturally seeks out power. Meaning, she becomes very fast friends with not only her adopted mother, Aurora, who uses Fist and Tooth. Lightning is also going to be using Fist and Tooth for her main weapon. Her own, what her body provides, what her strength is, she finds within herself. She'll use that. She'll weaponize herself. She's so focused on that. So who better to train her just from Aurora herself, who's been doing this now for 8 to 9 lantern years training. She's almost a master of a fist and tooth. And also Kenna, who is one of the firstborn of the settlement. She's not the firstborn, but she's one who's now gone. She was on the last hunt. She's going to keep going now. Was born, her and Ken were the first ones born with the new clan of death, the new model. So they're just stronger. They're just as our settlement's thriving, protecting the young. This is the fruits of that labor would be Kenna and Ken. So they also share this natural strength, right? As you survive in this world longer, you should be as strong as possible. So those two become great friends. So they go out to hunt again. Now we have Lightning going out in the place of her mom because her mom had to skip the hunt phase, or she just can't go out every single time. So Lightning goes out, Kenna goes out, Ken goes out, and Bria goes out. So Bria is, again, Ken and Kenna's mother. So the whole family takes just Lightning with her to go out and hunt. And it's the first time that we will hunt an actual gorm. Now, what a gorm is it's like a elephant-sized creature. It looks like an elephant and stuff like that, well, not completely, but its body shape is of that. Its feet look like that. And then it's got like a weird maw with arms on the side of it. It's a very horrific creature. It's got like an infant baby face. It's just not great, the gorm. It's not great to look at. So, going out to hunt one of those for the first time for the settlement. Interesting new gear for it to, lend itself out for the settlement to make. Right? There's great gear to be made from it. So with that, they go out and hunt for the first time. And when they get there, again, this is Lightning's first hunt. So she just destroys this thing. Lightning is a natural fighter, right? Her mom has raised her, taught her how to fight with fist and tooth, and she leans into that heavy. Her fighting arts she was even born with, being quixotic, natural born leader, monster claw fighting styles. She's much more weaponized. She's like a natural X-23. So yeah, she's easy. Short work of this. Again, with Kenna and Ken, they're outclassing a level 1, right? This is also meta even when I've decided that, like, you can tell that these survivors, this group, can probably start taking on level 2 things, right? So this level 1 is just absolutely just destroyed. So then you return to the settlement, spread out all their newfound resources from the Gorm, all this new stuff, celebration, and you get the Phoenix Feather event. So what this is a massive bird shadow just flies over the settlement and down falls to the ground a Phoenix Feather. And this Phoenix Feather is picked up by Kenna. Now, what happens with this is she takes the feather and hoards it for herself, much like what Lightning has. Lightning also has the disorder of being a hoarder. So one of the resources that Lightning, when they return, right, they return short because Lightning's taking stuff from these Gorm resources. And she's eating extra shares of food when she's supposed to bring it back. She's taking extra shares, or she's just destroying more resources than necessary because of her ferocity with her fist and tooth. Whatever it is that she's doing with this, because she's not actually creating a hoard of resources, it's just the disorder is being a hoarder. You'll never have access to these again, resources. Even in the game, you're never going to have access to these things again. So it's not like she's putting them somewhere and then you can spend them later. Something happened. Either she messed it up, she lost it, she's clumsy returning to the settlement, something, or more likely, she's just eating extra shares. Because right when you go out to the hunt, the thing is, the settlement will starve without this food. So when you go out to hunt, you're also hunting to survive. And to cover for this, Kenna publicly takes that Phoenix Feather because everyone saw it. So Kenna's just, being a martyr, or, she's being a black sheep for the fact that no one, so, to distract away from Lightning, which is very, very kind of her to do so, right? So then everyone can just blame her for the fact that there's less resources than there should have been. the same lantern year, after the Phoenix Feather and all that, there's the outcome of what happened when we crafted the bow from the Flower Knight. This is the repercussions of crafting that. There's when you're crafting with those flower resources and everything, spores or seeds get away when you're making that bow, and they fall into the ground or they get into the air. They're released, and then 4 lantern years later, that something happens. Either it grows, but it causes the nocturnal mistletoe, or the necrotic mistletoe is what it is. Necrotic mistletoe. It's like a spore, or some kind of something looks like snow, and it covers the entire settlement, right? But it's not snow. Survivors they don't know what to see with it. Snow does exist. It's not like these survivors would have seen it, but snow does exist somewhere. I don't know if it's exactly snow, but there are frozen biomes in Kingdom Death, which I would assume have snow. The artwork shows them in snow. Could be something else. You never quite know with Kingdom Death artwork. But anyway, for the most part, these survivors wouldn't know snow anyway, so they don't know if it's dangerous. They don't know what it is. Even if it was snow, they probably shouldn't have been playing in it. It is Kingdom Death after all. But yeah, so the settlement has no idea. They're shocked by this. And because of that, it's like a spore. It's making survivors sick, right? It's they're ingesting it. It's getting into their system, and it's bad. It's like a plague. It's not really a plague, but it's giving them the cold, you could say, or something like that. Something about it is off, and it is definitely making these survivors sick. So something needs to be done about that, right? You can't just let these sick survivors stay. They're probably going to make everyone else sick. So with that, Miles, one of the original 4, this is Lightning's father or adopted father. Actually, Aurora and Miles have another kid. They do have in this time, after getting Lightning, and then I did there's some roles here. They actually have, now that they've decided to stay because Lightning infused them with, or imbued them with a sense of like hope. They took up the last name Fate, even because they figured Lightning was fate. It's fated for them to stay. They've had other children. They have one. Victor is their actual child. So, but with that said, Miles takes it upon himself. Lightning tells Aurora, tells everyone that he's going to take these survivors. There's 4 others. He's just going to take them off and just leave the settlement with them. He just leaves with them, and then they're never seen again, and they die. So he just walks off with them, never to be seen ever again. So again, he told them what was going to happen. It was the only solution the settlement could come up with, and it's not a great thing, especially when you have someone who is like Lightning, who views power and strength as a goal to be obtained, or goal to reach, right? It's something you should aspire to with your life. So falling on your own sword to save other people is something that Lightning doesn't really grasp, right? You should die you should die in fighting, or you should die naturally, right? You shouldn't just be this black sheep and all these things. But so she struggles with that, but it's not a good sight, especially after, only being around, only knowing him for 1 lantern year. So, but he dies. So, takes the 4 other survivors who got sick from this mistletoe, and then the mistletoe's gone. The necrotic mistletoe that's the end of it. And now, you have to take someone else with you. I think something for the next hunt, they go to hunt another lion. So, the survivors go out again, and it is Lightning and Rodin, Aurora, and Caressa go out this time. Now, Caressa, again, she is the one who actually took the flower within her, right, from the old crone. So she has some part of that sleeping virus flower within her. Whether it's the same virus, it's definitely not, but she has that. She's the one who's carrying that with her. So she's an exceptionally good bow wielder. And now you have Lightning going out with Rodin. Rodin was the one who was found in the Living Stone. Now, Rodin is also an outsider, right? Lightning has Kenna as her friend and Aurora as her adopted mother, but Rodin is also an outsider, and him and Lightning, this is the first time they've gone on a hunt together, but they enjoy each other's company. They have something in common, right? Rodin also, again, as I've mentioned, survivors are not all there. They're very prone, not just to disorders, but their insanity. Everything. They're very easily triggered with, much like this necrotic mistletoe. There's something. This world is not kind to survivors, just in general. They're very low food chain, very low, very weak. They're feeble, not just feeble-minded per se, because they're capable of protecting themselves and building settlements and stuff. More so, they're just susceptible to the darkness and the world eroding their sanity. And with that, they are very flawed. Survivors are very flawed. And Rodin is no beacon of... He's not exempt from this. Rodin was trapped in the Living Stone. Who knows how long he was there? He doesn't remember it, or he's not sharing what happened. But he does believe himself to be immortal. He thinks that this world has made him stronger. He thinks he's indestructible, right? He's survived out there forever. He must have left his settlement by himself. Got either the same way that Tyson did. He just curiously touched some living stone and then switched places with it, or something happened that caused him to do that. The way he sees it is he cannot be killed. He's immortal, right? And he lives this out. He's got this disorder. He cannot be killed. He is reckless. He's the person with the shield. He's shield proficient. Super good with shield. He'll just take all the hits. He tanks for the whole party. This guy is nuts. Not only good on the battlefield, but he's just crazy, right? He's gonna just let monsters beat the crap out of him because he's convinced he cannot die. He's immortal. He'll bleed. He'll get knocked down, knocked around, take all kinds of heavy wounds, just walk it off, right? He's immortal. Who cares? He'll heal. So, Lightning and him become very good friends. They fall in love together because of this. The shared vision of power that you have within yourself to conquer this world, right? It's something that Lightning's always going to want to seek out. She's going to obtain it regardless how she can ever find it. That's what she wants, right? Anything that can show any slight ability to withstand the harsh world, she's going to try to obtain that. And Rodin, saying that he's immortal, why isn't it possible, right? If you can get in the correct mindset, then that's great. According to Lightning, awesome. She's gonna thrive. She'll become immortal too. Now with that, again, destroy this lion, just like the Gorm. No chance. Very easily killed. Then they come back, return to the settlement. Now this time, they have a unexpected time between hunts. There is a strange rumbling off in the distance. And, kind of being overprotective, just like, again, Lightning's eating all this extra food and everything, so kind of is going to overly protect for her. Was that big sister instinct to just cover for her and say that she's a hoarder and she's just stealing stuff. She's taking all the blame for both these double losses, right? Because they're both hoarders. She's always going to feel this big sister instinct. So this big rumbling in the dark. So she goes out. She leaves the settlement in the middle of the night, and she sees this large dung beetle knight, right? This huge insect, this dung beetle, pushing and rolling around this ball up these giant stone faces. It's it must be immensely powerful to be able to do that, right? The dung ball that it's rolling is huge, and to be able to push this massive thing up this hill, just immensely amazing. So, Kenna goes, she shares all the story of what she saw, shares it with the settlement, and of course, because we have some new monster, everyone's going to want to fight that, right? Why wouldn't you want to fight it? Thing's super strong. Probably's got awesome gear, awesome resources, right? So, they can't do it right away. The thing's probably a little bit too strong, and you never know exactly what's going to happen on a hunt, right? So it's too risky. She explains that it's probably back in the same place the Flower Knight was in the same woods, Bissell Woods. So they don't go off and hunt it right away. Instead, we go fight a screaming antelope next year. So the next lantern year comes around, this time deciding to go hunt a screaming antelope because we can't go after the dung beetle knight right away. It's too powerful, too far off into the woods. I mean, the settlement's strong. The hunting party is really strong. Lightning's not going this time. It's going to be Aurora, Rodin, Caressa, and Kenna. That's it. Caressa and Kenna. So they're going to go out and fight this screaming antelope. It's level 2 screaming antelope. See, test your strength. See how much more you can deal with. See how much a more powerful monster you can kill it. Test really how strong you are before we go set our goal, our benchmark on the dung beetle knight, right? You should be able to kill some level 2 stuff before you go after one of those. So, again, Lope not easily destroyed this time. Didn't have Kenna, didn't have Lightning, but Kenna and Caressa, Rodin, still easy enough. Aurora, she's very nearly a Fist and Tooth Master now. Simple enough, right? Not trivial, but simple enough. Especially with Caressa, who's nearing bow mastery. She's got immense amount of luck because of the sleeping virus flower within her. It's crazy. So, again, they return. Kind of takes more hoarding. Everybody, what can you do? She's super strong. Spear master. Or not spear master. She's working towards it. But she's one of the best fighters. You just got to let her do it. So, they get back. Again, more settlement. No nemesises as of yet. However, the Kingsman, one of the armored strangers from that showed up before and counted the population and all that, one of them has returned and is waiting outside the settlement. It's just you're not going to be able to hunt. See, when a nemesis shows up, they just wait outside, and whenever you go, whenever survivors leave to go for a hunt, you're going to have to go through them, right? And you have to hunt, so you're going to have to fight them. You can't not hunt. If you don't hunt, if you never leave the settlement ever again, you'll just die. You'll starve. So you have to hunt, and you're going to have to go through these nemesis, which in this case is a Kingsman. It's only one though, not a massive, I want to say massive, but not a regiment of them, as there were the first time when they came through, as all those armored strangers showed up. Probably about 10 or so. But this time it's just a singular, just one. So, you don't want to go out and fight right away. You want to gather, get your thoughts together. And this is when Thunder is born. Thunder is Lightning and Rodin's son. He is born during this lantern year, and you also have Ken and Caressa having a child, which is a savior, a blue savior for that. Because, again, Caressa is just massively lucky with her virus flower. She's just nothing but luck and this blue savior. So what a savior is when a savior's born, they blink out of existence for a slight, and they enter the dreaming, right? And they live an entire lifetime within a split second, right? You don't know exactly what happens in the dreaming, but the dreaming is... There's an entity that links the two worlds some manner, some way. It's not exactly explained, but the eternal dream, or the eternal dreamer, it's the realm that you're in there, right? How exactly it ties in is unknown, but there are many things in Kingdom Death that can tap into this dreaming, right? There's gear, there's power you can take from it. There's gear that's linked to it. Sometimes things come out of the dream into the world of Kingdom Death, or they go into the dreaming, never to be seen again. It's weird and hard to explain. Even I can't fully explain it. I don't want to go down too much of it, but so these saviors, when they're born, they live an entire existence in the dreaming, and they come back, and they have a special ability, and they're red, green, or blue saviors. There might be different types of saviors in the future. Who knows? But they're born after that, and they carry that over so that she has. So Arrow was born. Arrow's her name because because Caressa's almost a bowmaster. So she is a blue savior. She's born naturally lucky. She's got a dream ability. So they're crazy. They're crazy powerful, and they age weirdly. Aging, again, is not so much physical aging, right? From year to year, you might never age in Kingdom Death without as I explained in the first one, it's kind of like an amalgam of wisdom, proficiency. It's all. It's like the experience that you have in life defines your age. Kind of. It's not so much a passing of time, like we view age. Again, I think in the future, age will probably be more defined when Gambler's Chest comes, because there's some of the things that age represents appears to have new stats. So as those other stats in Gambler's Chest get expounded, it will be like age will be more described, more fulfilled, as just as you separate all this amalgam of what age just covers everything, entails everything. As you start explaining those other things, you also help define age a little bit more, because you've given life to these other things in which age acted as an amalgam for. So, with that, that's what a savior is. That is, you can only have one savior at a time in a settlement. Why? Don't exactly know. It wasn't always like that. Early versions of Kingdom Death, you could have multiple saviors, but now 1.5 you can only have one. So that's how powerful they are. That just shows. So with that, now we have to go out and fight a Kingsman. So what is a Kingsman? Again, as I said with the Armored Stranger, they're clad in a armor. Well, let me explain. So the people who go out to fight the Kingsman, right outside the doors, you don't know how strong it is, and you're going to have to fight it regardless, so you don't want to send your best out to go do it. So the people who went to fight this Kingsman were Victor, who is, again, Lightning's kind of brother, not blood-related. Thunder, who's Lightning's son. Kenna and Caressa, right? So the reason they fight it, Kingsmen, they have a presence about them. They have a weird way of walking. They walk to like a tempo. You can only hear this tempo in your head, right? It's like this unheard song, but you can feel its pressure, right? And that is pushed onto the survivors while you're fighting, and it slows the survivors down, or it speeds the Kingsmen up. It's hard to tell mechanically, because you're gaining negative movement when you fight this thing, but that could be a way of showing that the Kingsman's faster than you. It's speeding up, because it is a battle tempo, and tempo is the pace at which the conductor keeps. So you gaining negative tokens actually could be more representative of the Kingsman moving faster, more so than the pressure slowing you down. But I don't know for sure. It just makes more sense that because of increasing tempo and its battle pressure and all those things, it would actually be speeding up. Now, but it could, like I said, could be weighing you down. Anyway, when you kill a Kingsman, the survivor who dealt the death blow, who actually killed it, becomes cursed. Now, what that curse actually means is, in the case of Victor, who did kill the Kingsman, his bones in his hand, his hand, like it's like a bubbling. You can see like his skin starts to boil, like his blood is boiling, and then his bones rip out of his body, and they encase both of his hands, and it's his own bones that re-encase and become armor. So when these Kingsmen that are walking around, these armored strangers that are visiting, they're ex-survivors, right? Now, how Kingsmen are initially created, there's some other method that's not completely explained, and I don't want to theorize it on, but they can improve their numbers by cursing those who kill them. It's not a foolproof system, but that is a way of doing it. That does help them at least keep their numbers somewhat up without having to artificially create them wherever else it is they're being created. It's a defense mechanism that, instinctual. It's not always going to work, but it's a pretty good one. This will ensure that another Kingsman will be born because this person, Victor, now bears this curse. Slowly, his body will turn into a Kingsman, and then he'll go walk off for his purpose and look to fulfill it. So, all those Kingsmen, all that armor is just their own bones. It's a survivor whose just body is slowly being destroyed by this curse every time they gain age, every time they do something that causes them to age. Specifically when they fight. This happens whenever they fight. It affects their body. Now, so with that said, pretty traumatic to watch your brother slowly being cursed forever. Lightning's not having a good time. Her dad walked off to save the settlement with a whole bunch of dead people. Now this Kingsman has come and cursed your brother. She only has Aurora left at this point. Now she does have Rodin and her son Thunder, who's luckily survived, but the world is not nice to anybody in this world. So with that, life goes on. Gonna have to keep fighting, right? You're gonna have to survive. So they go fight a Gigalion next. That's the next hunt. After this Kingsman, which you're gonna have to deal with it, you're gonna have to push on. The settlement goes to fight a Gigalion. Now, what a Gigalion is a unique lion, right? It's a white lion, but it's also changed. It's bigger. It's just stronger. It's literally bigger. It's 33% bigger, 66 or something like that, whatever percentage bigger. How it got that way is somewhere off some other way. You have some other settlement during the same exact time as you. You have what's called a strain system that works in Kingdom Death. The strain system itself is a way of, I think it's officially called now in the Campaigns of Death, the Death World. And this is a way of tracking all the things that have happened to your unique game. And the strain mechanism shows the ways the world evolves with all the settlements interacting together. And this Gigalion was created by some other event, some Dead Rock survivors. It was them being killed and then being eaten, and some of the stuff that they had, when the lion finished them off and ate it, it became a huge Gigalion, and then it went off, and now there's just Gigalions around because they've shared their secrets with their family, as the crabs would say. And that enables you to be able to hunt these things. So, again, we obviously want to fight, test our strengths, test our mettle. We go fight a Gigalion. Now, what a Gigalion does is, in addition to being bigger, it has hooked claws and a very unique way of moving. So unique that it seems to teleport, which is kind of on par for higher level white lions, as they can also have zero presence and stuff. But with that said, not an easy fight at all. I might have been too overconfident from easily taking out a Kingsman and easily taking out level 2 Lopes that I thought, you know what, I'll just kill this Gigalion, get the things I need from it quickly. Not the case. It was very difficult, much harder than a level 2 lion. But nonetheless, the people who go out to fight the Gigalion are Arrow, which is Caressa's daughter, Aurora, Kenna, and Rodin. And again, even with those survivors, not a pushover. But the Gigalion is killed, and on the way back, return, we get a regal visit, which is a visit from the Hand. The Hand walks into the settlement. Now, the Hand is a very enigmatic, presence. He acts alone, right? If there's probably only one of him. There might be multiple, but I highly doubt it. I think there's only one. It's not so much an entity, but very, very strong. Entities are ways of saying, they're like the gods of the Kingdom of Death. This is more so a very strong, singular monster who's seeking favor, who's doing, who just does stuff for entities, right? Other strong, he's like a mercenary. He just goes around helping. It's harder to tell exactly what the Hand is doing in this world because the lore has changed around it. Old lore is what you get with this event. New lore, it kind of doesn't make sense that the Hand did this. And again, in Gambler's Chest, he's getting a new intro event. But for now, what he does is he walks into the settlement and instantly all the survivors, they get hazy and they don't know what's going on and they fall to their knees, right? And then the Hand just walks around and he looks them over and the survivors can't control themselves, right? It's like they've lost all their abilities to do anything. They know what's happening, but they can't stop it. They've lost all agency and they're just kneeling. And this, the Hand looks them over. Now, luckily, from our settlement, the Hand can tell within us, within everyone here, that the accepting of the darkness, the way the settlement carries themselves, in much like Lightning was saying, that the survivors have to be monstrous. They have to be you have to do this, right? You're going to have to become a little bit of a monster if you want to survive here, and because of that. Because that he can sense that that's the way the settlement is grooming itself, that's the way that this settlement has decided to live within the death world, he gifts us 2 infant survivors. Because this settlement is either meeting the approval of some entity that he's working for, and it's going down it's headed the trajectory that he approves of. So he wants to help this settlement. This settlement here is going down the right path. Right. This is just an interpretation, but the old lore suggests that that's what he was doing, and he likes that, right? So he says, here, you know what? Increase your numbers. Here's some more survivors for you, and those are Henry and what was his name? Hayden was the other one. The 2 of them, one female, one male. Henry and Hayden. So those are the 2 gifts from the survivors, or from the Hand. Just 2 infant survivors who now grow up here in the settlement. Much like Lightning, you don't know where they come from. Much like Rodin, much like Lightning, it's perplexing, to say the least. And with that behind us, the survivors go out to hunt yet again another lope. Again, it was probably the setback from the Gigalion. It was much easier just killing that level 2 lope. If the Gigalion was hard, Dung Beetle Knight's probably still going to be pretty difficult. Don't want to mess with it quite yet. Don't want to really take bad losses. You need to get our ace survivors to reach mastery, right? You don't want to send them out and then wipe, because then you've lost all that progress. It's really beneficial for the settlement for you to have masters, for them to share their secrets, for them to grow the power of the settlement. It's really important. So you still want to get more resources, especially since Lightning can kind of continue to hoard everything. You definitely want to go fight, but you don't want to. So you can't just keep fighting level 1s. That's not an option for us anymore. But at the same time, we don't want to wipe. So back to the lope, level 2 lope, pretty easy. So with that, next year it is Aurora, Rodin, Kenna, and Caressa once again. Again, people trying to attain mastery. Kenna, Caressa, and Aurora very close on almost getting to their master milestones with Spear, Bow, and Fist and Tooth. It's highly beneficial that we allow them to reach it. So again, we go, something strange happens in this one. On this hunts take time, right? It's not just, so the way the hunt works, the hunt board is, you have, as I was explaining earlier, the low-level monsters, the hunt is short because they're the ones who are willing to come really close to our Lantern Horde. The Lantern Horde has a presence about it that keeps monsters, it repels monsters, right? The stronger monsters don't really want to get near it for some reason. But the weaker ones are desperate, so they'll come and pick off the weak survivors. They know that they're weak, they need weak survivors, they're willing to come close. The other monsters, they're fine with it. They know that once the settlements get big enough, they'll come out. The survivors will have to come out. They'll hunt up all the level 1s and stuff. So they're fine with waiting. So how it works is that's what the hunt board actually tracks. It doesn't track a distance of time. It tracks a distance away from the horde. And then, the farther down something is, that means it's a higher level. Doesn't necessarily mean how far you've actually traveled. You could travel, level 1 could take multiple days to get to it. It just, or not. Or level 3 could be really close. It just happens that it's not near enough to the settlement, or near to the Lantern Horde that it is being repelled. So, there are times where you take breaks, right? That's how the hunt, it's not just one continuous path. You hunt, you fight, and then you come back all within one day. These hunting parties need to go out, and there's a chance that they could starve before the settlement could have people starving before they're even able to get back, right? So while waiting, or while tracking this thing, you have to break, take sleeps, and during that, Rodin has a nightmare, right, where he enters into the dreaming slightly, and what he sees is he envisions an antelope getting away, right? They didn't finish it off. It got away. It gets into the settlement and it kills everybody, right? But he envisions himself carrying this presence that he always does, being immortal. He can catch up to it, and he gets into the settlement and he kills it single-handedly, right? Now, because there's a survivor, or not a survivor, a savior in the settlement, saviors have the ability to enter the dreaming, right? So he envisions whether or not he actually sees Arrow in his actual dream, whether it's actually her, maybe they have a shared dream. It's kind of left vague, but because of that, when he gets out of his dream, he has a twilight sword. He's just found it. He can feel the presence. He can feel its presence next to him when he awakens. So now he's got himself a twilight sword. With this twilight sword, this is the same sword that was gifted to Tyson from the Hooded Stranger. Now, the Hooded Stranger never came back, either because he didn't see there was a thing, or he just showed up, left. Who knows? He didn't come back into the settlement, but he always said he was going to return. So that's going to happen. Now, Rodin has this twilight sword. He's got it on him. He's now wielding it. So you do know that Twilight Knight is going to come back to the settlement at some point. So they go on, they finish, kill the antelope, and return to the settlement. At this time, enough time has passed. This is Lantern Year 12, right? It's right before the hand said he would return. At this point, you have to decide how it is. You have to set a society for the way that your society envisions itself, how they're going to carry themselves moving forward, right? It's been long enough. We should set some personal identities for the settlement. And with that, the settlement becomes barbaric. Now, the other option would have been being romantic. It's more of, you see life through, you see the beauty in life. That's what romantic is, whereas barbaric is what the same principle that lightning has. You need to be You need to be barbaric to survive this, right? There's no beauty to be found here. So that's the new principle that the settlement has taken up, the barbaric principle. With that, there's this moment of truth. So all this hoarding and everything, the mechanic in the game is when you hoard, the more resources you take, every time you do it, you gain a courage, right? This courage is a stat that survivors have. It's not representative so much of courage, but that's what it's called. And when you've been doing stuff so much that increases your courage, you trigger an event where you see the truth. And what it is it's much like Rodin did, where he just had a nightmare while he was on the hunt, and he entered the dreaming, and he saw all these visions. Kenna has now reached this threshold where she can see the truth. And what you get is you get a vision of your own death, right? And it's shown to you by a man in a mask, and this mask is almost like a porcelain mask, and he's got a huge sword, and it's chained to his arm. This is a Forsaker, right? This is a Forsakers are something, whether they're a survivor or whatever. They are things that have given up on their humanity in exchange for raw power, right? And they're like the epitome of like a barbarian, right? Or like a dark knight. These are raw power, and they slowly lose their grip on humanity the more and more they tap into this. How they were given this power, it's unexplained. Forsakers were originally a class for the original Kingdom Death game, Journeys into the Abyss. That was the game that is more like Warhammer Quest. Poots has always been a huge fan of Warhammer Quest. Warhammer Quest is another board game like Heroes Quest. It's more like D&D. They're old school 90s tabletop board games that were meant to be like D&D, with dungeon tiles and all this stuff, random events, random generated dungeons where you just go through and it's like a chunky salsa. Everyone just runs through, and meat grinders, and you just kill minions after minions. It's like Massive Darkness, right? So Poots wanted to make, he loved that game, right? He loved Warhammer Quest. So that he set out to make that game, and that would be the Kingdom Death Journeys into the Abyss. And the Forsaker was one of the classes. So the Forsaker would have been the huge person with this just huge sword that's going around cleaving everybody, just cutting up everybody. That was the Forsaker. Now, Forsakers still exist in the Kingdom Death lore, the Kingdom Death monster lore, and this is the vision that you get. This is the thing that shows Kenna her own death, right? I think it says you blink a second eyelid, right? I don't know exactly what that means, but this vision is so intense when you see your own death. If mechanically, what you do is you can see, there's three different types: a sour, a bitter, and a sweet. Sour, bitter, and sweet death. Each one of them grants an ability, right? And these abilities are oddly familiar, right? And Kenna gets a vision of her own death where she can see herself just being ripped apart, right? It's not a good death. It's a very bitter death. Whatever she is, a monster just completely just tears her apart. So with this bitter death, you gain this ability. And now these abilities are very reminiscent of a thing that Kenna has fought before. They are abilities that make it so you can't get knocked down, abilities that make it so when you're frenzied, you can still spend survival when you're frenzied, and abilities for where you can just get a free surge every turn, right? You don't need to spend survival. You just get a free surge. You just get a free attack, right? So what are things that have multiple attacks, are almost invincible, can't be knocked down, very menacing, have chained weapons, wears masks, right? It's a butcher, right? What the butcher is a Whether or not there's one butcher or multiple butchers, you can't. It's not completely said. There could only be one, or there could be multiple. Either way, it's an end point for a Forsaker, right? What some Forsaker has lost all of its humanity, right? Forsakers slowly gave up on it. They gave away pieces of themselves to gain that power. But on the counter, if a Forsaker gave it all away, lost everything, they would slowly give into this madness. The reason why they chain their weapons to their wrists is because they have violent night terrors, right? They just go berserk. Hence, the Butcher. The Butcher is a lost Forsaker. And going down the courage path eventually leads to that goal, right? It's a way a survivor. This courage path shows what it is. Now, the other one, the understanding path eventually leads to a white speaker, right? It has a lot to do with white speakers, but the courage path is the Forsaker. So, this vision left Kenna, she's blinded in one eye afterwards. So, she wears an eye patch going forward because she is blinded. Now, she has to continue to hunt because she's not quite a spear master. So, she has this vision, the same exact year that which Rodin had his Twilight Sword given to him via that. So, now that Kenna has seen her death, she knows she's going to die. She knows she's not going to grow old, right? She's seen what she has. She's going to go, and we're finally going to hunt the Dung Beetle Knight, right? That was the thing that she went out that night. She aspired to hunt it. She's going to do it, right? It's time. She's seen her death. She wants to go out and do it. She's going to spend time with as much people as she can. So she's taking Lightning with her. So you've got Lightning, Kenna, Thunder, which is Lightning's son, and Arrow, which is, again, Caressa's daughter. They are going to go and hunt this Dung Beetle Knight. Again, these are all friends. All these people have known each other for a very long time now. Some of them started together. They grew up together. They're not the first wave of survivors. They're not the first ones that were here, but they're not the founders of the settlement. But these are the ones that all were born around the same time. And Lightning and Kenna, definitely huge friends. So those are the ones that are going to come out. Now, Dung Beetle, not an easy fight for sure. The Dung Beetle is a... he's... originally was a beetle. He was changed via... He feeds off... What the Dung Beetle is, originally was a beetle. It aspired to eat this phoenix droppings, right? The phoenix has like a time manipulation thing, and its droppings are weird. They cause weird effects. But the Dung Beetle really wanted the phoenix droppings. But where the phoenix would go to, the trees in the abyssal woods, land on the top of them, and then it would be the place to where the Dung Beetle was guarded by the Flower Knight, right? And the Flower Knight wouldn't let anything into its ring, the place where it guards, right? So the Dung Beetle wants the droppings, but the Flower Knight guards it. Or it just so happens to be the droppings are in the territory the Flower Knight is guarding. So it slowly over time as it gets bigger, slowly starts mimicking the Flower Knight. And it's now become a knight. It uses a sword. It's just like the Flower Knight, only it's a Dung Beetle. It forcefully evolved itself. It's adapted to that. And so that's what the Dung Beetle Knight is. And it's got the intricate cave systems where you go and you fight it. So, of course, now that we're all ready, we go, we fight it, we kill it. And at the end of the fight, you can go into these cave systems. So, Lightning goes down. She's gained some courage for going down there. She doesn't succeed going all the way to the end, but she gets extra caustic done in, I think, like an iron or something. It was well worth it. She wanted to push herself to get the treasure that was inside the catacombs of this Dung Beetle Knight, but she couldn't make it past all the trials. So, with that, they go back to the settlement. Now, the spelunking of death is what it is called. So, with Spelunking of Death, or no, not Spelunking of Death, with the gear from the Dung Beetle Knight, you can do farming, in a sense. It's called subterranean agriculture. So you have to prepare land, and you take your weapons and you encase them in this caustic dung and everything, and then you bury them, and you let the dung and everything change the weapon that you buried. So what we did get from the Dung Beetle Knight was the regenerating blade, the broken one. It was the blade that the sword that the Dung Beetle Knight was using. We got it from it when we killed it, and it's broken. So that how to fix it is you have to bury it into this caustic dung. And the other one is a Zambado, because Zambado is another big sword that survivors usually can make. We already had it. It was made from lion parts. It's no longer done that in 1.6. Now it's just done through other means. But when I was playing it, it's from, you make it from lion stuff. And then you bury it because it's frail. So hopefully it will fix that as well, right? It will remove frail. You'll be able to have you'll have a calcified version of the Zambado, along with fixing the regenerating blade. Now, with that, it takes a lot to farm, right? You have to have people preparing land. It puts you in a bad position settlement-wise. It takes a lot of effort, and a lot of energy is expelled in all this effort, so a lot of survivors can't go out and hunt, and they can't do anything else. The farmers and the barriers and all these things, whoever's doing it, they have to skip their next hunt, right? During all this subterranean agriculture, all this, the Hooded Knight returns, right as everyone's doing this. And the Hooded Knight is here for the Twilight Sword wielder. So, that is Rodin. Now, Rodin has not been using the Twilight Sword. He just has it with him. It's cursed. He keeps it with him all the time. It was his. It was given to him from the nightmare. Pulled it across from the dreaming. But he hasn't used it. He's not proficient in it at all. He was using shields and everything because he's immortal. Right? So the knight wants to come and test his mettle. The Twilight Knight is, again, wearing this just huge hood over there. Twilight Knights don't talk typically. Right? They're very emotionless by design. I'll get into more Twilight Knights, but these things are very stoic, and they're just right to the point. And you have to duel him. That's how he's going to test your mettle, right? You use the sword, you hope to duel him, you hope to stand up to it, and again, Rodin, not proficient, has not been using it. The fight does not go well, right? The settlement sees the knight coming back. Last time, he was kind, right? He just gave the tattered parcel, just gave over the sword, gave over the cloak, gave over the lantern, and just said, hey, I'm coming back soon. Hopefully you figure this out. Tyson got trapped in the living stone. No one ever trained it. Twilight Knight came back. No one had the sword. He just bounced. Comes back again. Finally, someone has the sword. He doesn't care who has it. Doesn't care that it's not Tyson this time. He's just Rodin. Says, all right, let's go. Show me what you've got. Did you use this sword? This sword is amazingly powerful, but you need to be able to use it. So, and if you can keep it. So, with that, Rodin very clumsily handles this thing, right? He's a shield specialist, but he's immortal. He's just like, screw it, whatever. I'll kill you eventually. I'm immortal. And decapitated. Twilight Knight just decapitates him. He's not immortal. He just dead. What a poor showing. Twilight Knight doesn't really care. They're emotionless. They don't show emotion. These Twilight Knights are very methodical. That's it. He just failure, pretty much. Grabs the sword, picks it up, walks out. Not a word is shared. These things they don't have to, they're explaining to nothing, right? Now as he's walking out, there are people with him, right? Twilight Knights are the protectors of the Twilight Order, right? They're the Knights of the Order. The Order's not all knights, right? They're accompanied by an archivist. they're these people who carry around books from the Grand Library, right? The last place of knowledge that's in Kingdom Death. Now, I'm not going to get into what happened in the library, the Grand Library. Not going to get into the whole thing with Twilight Knights, but this Twilight Knight is accompanied by an archivist, or more so, the archivist is accompanied by a Twilight Knight. That's its bodyguard to protect this whole world. So these guys travel in pairs of two, and they walk around the settlements, right? They just walk the darkness. That is a huge... Those they must be really strong, especially since one of them doesn't even fight. Twilight Knights are no joke, and he just decapitated Rodin like nothing. Needless to say, doesn't go over well with Lightning. She believed him, right? She believed that he was immortal. This is not something that's just going to go down very easily. Lightning just is going to rip this guy apart, right? Runs at him, attempts to, but she's stopped by Kenna. She's stopped by all the survivors. They're not going to let her fight this thing, right? They also know that that dude is probably going to just kill her. So they stop her, but she is not happy. That is not, that is some, not only is that devastating for someone who just saw that like the person they loved was just decapitated like nothing, but she also believed that he was immortal. These two believed that they were so strong, and they had been proving it this whole time, tearing up all these monsters, and this guy just makes a joke of Rodin. It is not even a challenge. If anything, it was pitiful for that Twilight Knight. Stood no chance. Took one he didn't even do anything with the sword. If this guy could have shown emotion, that would have triggered Lightning probably ridiculous. She's probably lucky that these knights don't show emotion. And that's the end. He just walks off. And then, not to mention, on top of all this, the hand is back. So, after all this subterranean stuff, you're just gonna have to go out and fight the hand. Now, the hand isn't looking for a fight, thankfully. He's not caring about what the Twilight Knight's doing. He doesn't care about anything. He's just here, again, almost to test the mettle of these survivors. But he's interested in a different thing. The Twilight Order is interested in them showing how strong they are via dueling, and then helping the survivors deal with their future problems. The Hand doesn't care. He's just invested in the settlement reaching its goal, that whatever he has, whatever agenda he's doing, he doesn't care what happens to the survivors, whether or not they all die. He just wants the settlement to reach some goal. What that is, it's not really explained even in Kingdom Death, but you can only assume that something about barbaric and accepting of darkness and the way that the survivors handle themselves in this world is what he wants. He wants that to thrive. He wants all settlements to be like that. So he's not really looking to kill you off and not really looking for a fight. Thankfully. Because we just did the training, our subterranean agriculture. We had no one to send out. So the people who go to fight the hand are Ken, Chase, and then Xander and Bria. Now, Xander is actually a twin. Lightning and Rodin had twins, Xander and Zion. So she has more children, but I just forgot to mention it to this point. But Xander and Zion, again, are more of Lightning's kids. Twins that they had. And Chase is actually Ken and Kenna's brother that, again, just didn't mention. Again, our settlement has about 20 or 30 survivors. I'm just not mentioning them all because some of them, they're not all... they're not all super important, right? I can't use them all. I can only send out 4 at a time, and I'm going to want to repeatedly use the ones because I need to get master. I need to make sure that I'm cultivating good fighting arts. Some of them just are duds. So, again, luckily, he's not looking to fight us. So what you do with the hand is you just survive, right? He just wants you to survive to prove that you can handle this world. He's just going to not really attempt to kill you. So if you can just survive, if you can just stand around and block, then that's good. He'll show you respect. He'll even applaud and then walk away. It's not to say he's not a sore loser and he's not a pushover. That's for sure. As he's leaving, he just points his finger at Bria. Again, Bria is Kenna's mom. Kenna and Ken and Chase's mom. just points his finger and her head explodes as he leaves. He's just like, whatever. Who knows how he does that, right? It's not the only way he can kill you. There's other ways that he can he can have like your body contract in on itself. There's all kinds of crazy ways that he can kill you without even touching you. The hand is super powerful. Again, lucky that he doesn't actually want to kill you. Till the God Hand. We'll see what happens with God Hand. Survivors decide to go out and fight another Gorm, something that we know we can take. This is a level 2 Gorm now. Again, I've already explained, you can't keep fighting level 1s. So with level 2 Gorm, this time it's Lightning, Thunder, Kenna, and Enri. Enri was the gift from the hand, one of those one survivors. She's going to go out and hunt this time. Because again, I can't keep sending out the same people all the time in case they die. I have to send out some other ones. So Enri goes out on the hunt. Enri was not born in the settlement. She is another outsider. So she's not as strong as if the people who were born here, right? But there's kind of like a respect, so Lightning will take her out with her because, again, she's much like Rodin and like much like her kids. They started as outsiders, so Lightning's willing to take her along with, obviously, kind of the big sister of the settlement. She'll allow new survivors to still come out. And Thunder and Enri, they get along, right? So Thunder is Lightning's son, the one who was a shield specialist, the one who Rodin had been training with the shield. So he's proficient. He's much like Rodin. He's just going to be a very good tank. He's got all of Rodin's stuff was passed down to him. So he's basically just doing what Rodin would have done had he not been killed by the Twilight Knight. So they go beat the Gorm. On the way out of the Gorm, you have to get out of its lair, where it's not really its lair. It has like a miasma-filled place where it was giving birth, right? Or it's like a birthing location, like a spawning location for these things. You can go in and there might be a baby Gorm and you could kill it real quick and get some extra resources. But this thing has got a thick, palpable miasma in like this cave. Because Gorms, they have this like retching ability where like they retch and it's like dissolves skin. It's like almost like an acid, right? It's a very soluble, not soluble, but survivors are soluble. It's a very like putrid and very potent, like acidic thing. So as people go around and they mess around after you kill the Gorm, you mess around where it was, where they hunted it back to this place where these caves are. And in the process of digging around in these miasma-filled caves, Kenna and Lightning, because they're friends, they were off together doing the same exact thing. Their hands get messed up. They have now the acid palm ability from digging around inside this cave where they couldn't exactly see, trying to cover their mouth from breathing in the toxic miasma. Clumsily, they burn their hands. But, however, they gain the acid palm's ability, so it does make Lightning even more strong with her fist and tooth attacks. After that, on the way back from the hunt, what actually happened on the hunt, kind of fell into a sinkhole. Sinkhole, I don't know why I was going to say whirlpool. It's a sinkhole. And they saved a survivor in there. Who knows how he got himself in that situation, but they saved him, and that is Ryder. He was saved from the sinkhole by Kenna as they were out hunting. So he again returns to the settlement with all of the hunt party. And that the time spent together, Kenna and Ryder, they have a daughter named Tara. She is much like Thunder, who Lightning passed down everything to. Tara is everything that Kenna passes down to. So she's got huge spear, because at this point I think Kenna is a spear master. So this gives a huge head start for Tara, who will be the person to replace Kenna now that Kenna's nearing the end of not only her age, because you can only hunt for so long till you retire, and being a master, we've been fighting these level 2s because Kenna and Lightning keep hoarding, so I needed to keep my resources high since I knew these guys would be hoarding everything. And level 2s give you more hunt experience. So she's slowly pushing herself near the retirement age. So Tara will be the one to replace her once she finally does retire. With that, there is another lope again, where, again, Thunder, Caressa, kind of the same bunch, pushing towards mastery, pushing towards everything we can. We fight another lope. Fight another, what is it? Yeah, another lope. And eventually the Butcher returns. Now, the Butcher returning is not a good thing. Kenna had mentioned that she sees this massive, what is it, the Forsaker, right? She obviously shared this with Lightning, what she had seen, this, the way she had saw her own death getting ripped apart and everything. She never shared exactly what had happened about the death, but shared how this Butcher-like figure, and how powerful it was, and how it scarred her, how she became blinded by it. So she had shared this story. Now the Butcher 2 shows up, so they know the Butcher is going to be stronger. It shows up again, waiting the same way the Kingsman did. It just waits outside the settlement. It's going to ambush any party that leaves, so you're going to have to fight it. You're going to have to deal with it. So what they do is they send out Clayton, who was an original survivor. I think, yeah, he was one of the original found from way back when the settlement was first established. He's one of the ones that were here at the Landador right away. Chase, which is Ken and Kenna's brother. Ken and Zion, which is one of Lightning's twins. And Kenna, obviously Ken's twin. Or Ken is Kenna's twin. So they go out to fight the Butcher 2. Now, the Butcher 2 does not go well. This is the first time that the Butcher has ever defeated the settlement. And when the Butcher defeats the settlement, it is not a pretty sight. So, as I was mentioning, they've given up their humanity. They are Forsakers that have they've lost everything within them. They are just this fueled vessel of pure rage and hatred, and they just act on nothing. This thing is like a Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th movies. He is just it's just a classic horror movie villain, right? Just a mindless killer. So when this thing does kill you, it lines up its people. The 4 survivors that went out. In this case, Clayton is dead. Chase is dead, which is Kenna's brother. Ken, Kenna's twin, and Zion, Lightning's son, butchered completely. Not only that, are they just hacked up? The Butcher lines them up and cuts off their faces and takes their lanterns, wraps the face around their lantern, adds it to his back cape, where he keeps their horrified face, right? Their face at their time of death. Keeps it wrapped around their Butcher, or wraps around their lantern, added to the Butcher, so the Butcher can always remember these face. He keeps these scared faces. That's just what he does, and he carves them up with his cleaver, puts them on, and then he just walks out, and there's nothing you can... Or no, then he walks into the settlement and destroys everything. You lose all your resources. Losing to the Butcher is not a good time. And you're powerless, right? The way Kingdom Death works is the hunters, the people who go out and hunt, because the settlement really puts all their faith in the hunters, right? It's always your scarce for resources, right? So everything you make, you hope that the hunters win and come back, right? And you're sent with these scouts. So scouts are the ones that follow a hunt party and then return with all the gear, because that gear is the most precious thing that a settlement has. They don't have... The way in the lore works is they don't have stuff. It's weird. Even though you have some things that you can replace, some things that are irreplaceable but not unique, the keywords are terrible, but the way that it works is even though something is called irreplaceable, you can technically replace it. Or no, even though something is called irreplaceable, it doesn't mean that everything else isn't replaceable. It's not. So everything is technically irreplaceable. Weird. Anyway, so the scouts really need to return with all that gear. Scouts they live on the outskirts of the settlement, right? So thematically, it makes more sense that the scouts are the ones that are warning you that these nemesis are coming. And the nemesis are like typical horror villains, right? They're going to just walk slowly. One, because the hand doesn't really care. He's in no rush. Two, the butcher just walks slowly because what's going to kill a butcher? Nothing. You could decapitate it and it walks away. And then the Kingsman just walks slowly anyway. So you're probably getting advance notice from your scouts, and then they send it back to the settlement, and that's why you know that they're out there, and it doesn't seem like they're just waiting out there, because it's really weird that they would just be waiting outside. But so these scouts are the ones that return all the gear. So with that said, when those hunters, the ones that went out to face the butcher, are getting their faces cut off and everything, everyone else has no gear, so they can't. You're helpless to stop the butcher from just destroying everything. He'll just burn your storehouses to the ground and then just walk out. So then you're powerless. You can't do anything. And this is terribly upsetting to Lightning, right? Because she's powerless. She wants to fight that thing. She doesn't need. She'll just rip it apart with her hands, right? She doesn't need a weapon. She just doesn't have gear, so she can't stand up to it. And she's slowly breaking. She's at a slow breaking point because she just saw her son get his face cut off. She just saw Xander's the one who got his face cut off. She just saw Rodin get decapitated. Her whole ideal of her being something of power, being a leader, making herself stronger, she is being humbled and thrown back into reality so fast by these last events. Rodin was not immortal at all. He's just insane and powerless to stop this butcher. She's watching as this butcher just destroys everything that they've saved up for all this time, and she's powerless to stop him. If she were to engage him without gear, she would end up dead too. So she is just destroyed. But what she wants to be is what the butcher is. What that butcher represents is what she wants, right? She wants to walk around. She wants to be that thing that cares, that is just embodiment of rage and is pretty much invulnerable, like Rodin was, right? That butcher is pretty much immortal. It's invincible even. And nothing can stop it. She knows it. She can feel it. She's powerless. And so she's just seething, watching this thing as it's destroying everything in the settlement. She's being tested. Kenna can see this. Kenna knows that there's not much time left. You're watching your friend breaking down as reality is thrusting upon. As she wants to reject reality. Like I said, survivors are not they're not peaks of fit mind, right? Kenna is an exception, right? Kenna's someone who has found a way to accept that you might not be able to win, but small steps forward, right? So Kenna sees it as, if we can just train up Henry, we'll take her with us, take all these new survivors, we just keep population strong. That's why they're protecting the young. That's why we just keep our population strong. We can maybe push the settlement forward just by us teaching other people, training them up and everything. We don't need to go down the path of a first hero, right? What a first hero is, it's a future expansion where one survivor does all the hunting and they become pretty much like a butcher, right? They're going to be like a nemesis encounter where you fight one of them. They're so strong. They have all the weapons of the whole settlement. The settlement puts all their faith into one survivor, their hero, right? That's what Lightning wants. That's what she wants. Kenna's the other way. She says if you just train people, just stay the course and stay ahead of it, and you can survive. They have different opinions on how to handle it, but they're both watching the same event. Kenna watches the butcher and sees something to overcome, sees something to stay away from, but learn to eventually overcome. Lightning sees it, and she sees a source of power. She sees something she wants to be, something to strive for. Abandon humanity. It doesn't matter. If you could just obtain that power, you could protect everybody. Different opinions of the same event. It's cognitive dissonance, right? It's when one person fights two things, But this is different perspective of the same event, which is so unique. Now, finally, the butcher's done. They have nothing left. You're going to have to go one more fight. And once the butcher's gone, luckily, it's time for the Black Harvest. Now, the Black Harvest is when we finally get to dig up all those weapons that were buried during subterranean agriculture. They are huge boons. Getting the calcified Zimbato, getting the calcified regenerating blade, huge boons to the settlement, huge power increases. We just need people to be able to use grand weapons or one-handed swords. So we need to start training new types of people, because you're going to have Aurora, who not necessarily going to go out and fight anymore. You're going to have Thunder, who's reaching shield mastery now. Kenna's reaching... she's got one more left in her. She knows if she can just start this new... She's going to stay the course. Protect the young, train people up, and eventually we can survive with pure numbers and pure strength collectively. And then you've got Cressa, who's reached her bow mastery. So you've got all of them about to do it. You're going to need to train up and pass off the new thing. If you want to train and get people quickly to age up, you fight a phoenix. So with that, Kenna says, let's go fight this phoenix. The thing that has some sort of time manipulation or whatever. We can send new survivors, fresh survivors, and get them trained up quickly. And we'll be able to withstand these nemesis. So you send out to the phoenix. Also, Thunder and Enri. As I was saying, Enri's the girl from the hand. Thunder's Lightning's son. They have twins. There was actually a lot of twins that were born because I had no resources. This is meta, but no resources left to spend. The butcher killed everything, right? So all those endeavors from all those people dying, they get like 8 or 9 endeavors. You're just going to have to use them on something. So there was a lot of children being born, again, because Kenna's idea is you get as many people as possible and you can just hopefully train them up and withstand the world. So with that said, Kenna and Ryder have twins. They have Luke and Lucas, and Thunder, which is again Lightning's son, and Enri, which is the girl from the hand. They have Madison and Mackenzie, 2 female twins. So with that, those are the people that will come out to fight this phoenix. Now, Lightning's torn, right? She was someone who just she had to unearth all that stuff. She dug it all up, cracked open all the things, get the swords out of the caustic dung and all that stuff. So she can't hunt. But, so you get Mackenzie, which is Lightning's new, granddaughter. Thunder, Cressa, and Kenna. And remember, Cressa and Kenna, this is their last hunt. This is it. They're going to hit mastery. They're going to come near, they're like 4 or 5 ticks away from retirement, both of them. So if Phoenix can go wrong, you can going to fight a level 1 Phoenix, not going to fight a level 2. Level 2 can age up people and you can cease to exist. Time wonkiness, don't want to mess around with them when you have people who are nearing retirement. But again, also because I need to get people, you need to train up the settlement, got to get them people rapidly aging. It's good to send out new survivors to fight a phoenix. So with that said, the phoenix is killed. Kenna, Cressa both reach mastery. Phoenix does some of that time stuff, pushes Kenna to retirement. She cannot hunt anymore. This is it. She's weakened. She's just going to have to retire, right? So with that, they return to the settlement. Mackenzie is growing up. Thunder filling in for Rodin. That's it. So the only thing that's left to do is find new hunters. She's going to have to go retire. She's going to have to go break the news. She's going to have to go tell Lightning what's going to happen. She's going to tell her that, the Phoenix, what she would suggest is you keep fighting Phoenixes. We train up as many people as possible. We're not looking for heroes, right? We're looking for strength in numbers. That's the best way to go forward. So Kenna goes out to the outskirts where there was all the subterranean agriculture, all the scouts are. That's where Lightning was. Again, she always stands guard. She sees herself as a hero. Kenna tells her what's going to happen. That's it. Kenna's retiring. She's too old. She's weak now. The time manipulation forced her to retirement. She can't keep hunting anymore. That's it. People can't hunt forever, right? you're just going to eventually get weak. She tells Lightning, you're eventually going to get weak. And this is just not something Lightning really wants to hear. Right? Lightning snaps. That's it. Right? It's no good. And that's it. Lightning snaps. She just attacks Kenna, right? You gotta remember, this is a person who thinks of themselves and her friends as someone who are heroes, right? This is a very low point when she sees, for one, the reality has been smacking her down, right? She doesn't want to accept the fact that survivors are not super powerful, right? And just as Kenna had seen, something did rip her apart. Something violently ripped her apart. It just wasn't it was a domestic monster. Well, you didn't need to go hunt that. That's it. That's the end of Kenna. Lightning. People see this. She's covered in just blood. She's completely blank-faced. It's not a good sight. She is a murderer. What can you do? The settlement has to decide what it is to do with her, right? There's a lot of relatives. What can you do with her, right? You're just gonna have to deal with it. She's gonna need to be dealt with. This is a barbaric settlement, not exactly one that's akin on letting stuff like this go. So, with that, I'm gonna end this part here. That is the end. We'll pick it up in the next one. A bleak downer. We'll see where the story goes in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Again, all this happens. You can go watch season 1. All these are random card draws. I had none of this planned. It all is a very organic storytelling. All of this, you could go back. I watched it all. I had to take all these notes. If you're someone who's watched all this and you know everything about it, and it's not a good time. Very down point. So, I'll see you in the next part for the end of, we'll wrap up season 1. I'll see you next time.